Doncic with the defender on his hip. Goes all the way out. What is that pass?
Last night's NBA action was nothing short of astonishing, packed with unexpected outcomes, impressive individual performances, and strategic brilliance on both ends of the floor. One of the biggest shockers of the evening came from Los Angeles, where the Lakers tied their franchise record for made three-pointers in a single game. An impressive feat on its own, but even more jaw-dropping considering it was achieved against what is widely regarded as the best defensive team in the league. The Lakers, not particularly known for their three-point shooting prowess, came out firing with confidence, moving the ball exceptionally well and creating open looks from deep. Their role players stepped up, knocking down shots with rhythm and precision, and their stars facilitated the offense with patience and poise. It was a masterclass in offensive execution that caught even the most seasoned analysts off guard. Meanwhile, in the Bay Area, the Houston Rockets put together one of the most effective defensive game plans we've seen all season in their matchup against the Golden State Warriors. All eyes were on Steph Curry, but the Rockets were determined to ensure he didn't get anything going. They assigned a defender to shadow him relentlessly, glued to him from the moment he crossed half court, and consistently sent double teams whenever he came off a screen or pick. The goal was simple but incredibly difficult to execute: get the ball out of Curry's hands and force the rest of the Warriors to create offense, and they executed it to near perfection. Curry was limited to just 3 points the entire game, and for info, almost unheard of stat for a player of his caliber. The Rockets' rotations were sharp, their communication was elite, and they maintained a high level of intensity from tip-off to the final buzzer. As a result, the Warriors' offense sputtered, unable to generate enough rhythm or scoring from alternative sources. While that game showcased Houston's defensive brilliance, things in Denver painted a different picture. The Nuggets continued to struggle despite yet another monster performance from Nikola Jokic. The reigning MVP was his usual dominant self, scoring efficiently, rebounding with authority, and orchestrating the offense like a point guard trapped in a center's body. But basketball is a team sport, and once again Jokic lacked the necessary support from his teammates. The Nuggets bench failed to contribute meaningful minutes, and their perimeter defense was porous, allowing the opposition to capitalize on open looks. It's becoming a concerning trend for Denver. Elite performances from Jokic not translating into wins, largely due to inconsistent play around him and a lack of defensive cohesion. In another notable development, the Sacramento Kings bounced back in a big way. Just 4 days after a head-scratching loss to the struggling Washington Wizards, the Kings came out with energy and focus to take down the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was a satisfying redemption performance, especially against a strong Cavs team that has been one of the East's toughest competitors. Sacramento's offense looked fluid, their defensive rotations were crisp, and their young core showed maturity. By not letting the recent loss linger, this win signaled their potential to bounce back quickly from adversity, a trait that's crucial for any team with playoff aspirations. All in all, it was a night full of twists and turns. From the Lakers lighting it up from beyond the arc, to the Rockets shutting down one of the greatest shooters of all time, to Denver's continued woes and Sacramento's bounce back, there was no shortage of drama. These games served as a reminder that in the NBA, anything can happen on any given night, and that's what makes the league so compelling.
So Steph still hasn't scored, and he turns it over again. Tari Eason running with a man Thompson to dunk it.
Luckily for Golden State, their bench stepped up in a big way to help offset the unusually quiet night from Steph Curry. With the Rockets executing a defensive masterclass to keep Curry nearly invisible on offense, the Warriors relied heavily on their second unit to keep the game competitive. The bench delivered, contributing the majority of the team's points in the first half and showing real poise under pressure. Their effort kept the game within reach, providing much-needed scoring bursts and maintaining the intensity that Curry typically brings. However, just as the Warriors seemed to be stabilizing, things took a sharp turn late in the second quarter, and not in their favor. The spotlight shifted to Draymond Green, but not for his usual defensive leadership or playmaking. Instead, The game began to unravel for Golden State as Green became increasingly volatile and emotional, drawing unnecessary attention for all the wrong reasons. His actions disrupted the team's rhythm and drew the ire of the officials, leading to momentum-swinging plays that ultimately favored Houston. What could have remained a tightly contested battle started slipping away as Green's antics took center stage, derailing the Warriors' focus and giving the Rockets an opening to widen the gap.
Dillon Brooks having words. The disruptors for both teams. The crowd letting Dillon Brooks hear it. The final minute of this first half, we've decided nothing. And Şengün and Draymond kind of coming together. And Draymond's like, you're not going to bully me. Like, this is my spot. That's not a good idea. Now we have a technical foul. And the hope for the Warriors is that Draymond can kind of channel this frustration and just have a monster game. He's done it before. Now the crowd is involved. See, this is the kind of energy you want to feed off of.
Draymond Green would mellow out and mature with age, right? But nope, if anything, it's like he's going in the opposite direction. The older he gets, the more unhinged he seems on the court. Last night was a prime example. The guy was all over the place, complaining, getting into it with the refs, losing his cool at the worst possible moments. Honestly, he was more of a distraction than a leader out there. He even made Dillon Brooks, that Dillon Brooks, look like a model citizen by comparison. It's wild. And as for Steph, it was almost one of those shocking nights where he went completely scoreless. That's how locked down he was. The Rockets had him in a straitjacket, but somehow late in the game, he managed to get off this ridiculous off-balance shot that miraculously went in. If that prayer hadn't dropped, we'd be talking about one of the most bizarre zero-point outings in his entire career. That one. Lucky Bucket was basically the only blip on an otherwise silent night for the two-time MVP.
Curry three. He got a bucket. I told you, he got a bucket.
The half wasn't over yet, because of course Draymond wasn't done. Just when you thought the Warriors might get to the break without any more drama, Green decided to double down on the chaos. In true Draymond fashion, he got himself involved in yet another unnecessary scuffle, barking at the refs and jawing with opponents like it was Game 7 of the finals. His emotions completely boiled over, and what should have been a routine end to the quarter turned into a spectacle. He picked up a technical, and the tension in the building shifted. You could feel it. His outburst zapped whatever composure the Warriors had left. Instead of regrouping and coming out of halftime with momentum, they went into the locker room rattled, frustrated, and trailing. Draymond's antics didn't just hurt the team on the scoreboard, they threw off the entire vibe. And at that point, the Rockets could sense blood in the water.
And Van Vliet, Draymond, due to get a foul. Free throws. This was not a good play.
Jawing and pacing like it's Game 7 of the finals, right after Fred Van Vliet misses both free throws. Draymond was acting like the Rockets had just blown a lead in the NBA Finals instead of, it being a regular season game. The energy he brought was chaotic, like he was trying to stir up something bigger than basketball. But here's the thing, it wasn't just him. Even Ime Udoka, the Rockets' head coach, got in on the action. He and Steph had a little back and forth, too, which added another layer of tension to the already heated matchup. You don't usually see Steph getting into it like that, so you knew emotions were running high on both sides. But if Draymond's whole plan was to disrupt the Rockets and throw them off their rhythm, it completely backfired. Houston didn't flinch. They stayed composed, focused, and locked in, exactly how a mature, well-coached team should. In fact, it seemed like the more the Warriors tried to rattle them, the more disciplined and sharp the Rockets got. Their defense never slipped. Their communication stayed tight, and offensively they kept moving the ball and attacking the right matchups. So instead of falling apart under pressure, the Rockets just used it as fuel, and it showed on the scoreboard.
12-6, points off turnovers favoring the Rockets. Ben Thompson out to Dillon Brooks for three, and he's got it, and Brooks is having a shooting night after making 10 in the first. Şengün right down the lane.
Jalen just 2 for 7 in the half. Into the lane, corkscrew layup in, and one.
On the other end, things escalated when the tension that had been simmering all game finally boiled over. A hard foul, a little extra contact, whatever it was, it sparked a flare-up that had both teams on edge. Players started exchanging words. Tempers flared and benches stood up, ready to step in if things got out of hand. The crowd fed off the energy, and suddenly, what had started as a chess match turned into a full-blown street fight between two teams with something to prove. Draymond, predictably, was right in the middle of it again, jawing with anyone who looked at him the wrong way, while the refs scrambled to keep the situation under control. Even the normally composed Steph Curry looked visibly frustrated, caught in the crossfire of a game that was spiraling into chaos. The Rockets, though, never lost their cool. They stayed locked in, didn't overreact, and let their play do the talking. While the Warriors got caught up in the emotion, Houston kept their heads down and kept grinding, further proving that no amount of noise was going to knock them off course.
Jimmy Butler, someone that can post him up, expose him. Moody attacking, and Draymond on a layup. And it's an offensive foul, and it would be Draymond's 5th foul. Alperen Sengun is struggling right now. He is in pain.
Then, just when things couldn't get any more heated, Draymond Green took it up another notch. Unfortunately, not in a good way. In a reckless moment, Green came in with elbows high, catching Alperen Sengun square in the face. It was the kind of unnecessary contact that makes everyone on the floor tense up instantly. The refs didn't hesitate. It was foul number 5 for Green, and that forced Coach Steve Kerr to finally pull him from the game. It was a move that couldn't come soon enough. Green had become a liability, more focused on stirring chaos than playing smart basketball. And with him out, Golden State had to figure things out fast, without their emotional fire starter and without their superstar producing. But Houston didn't let up. The Rockets' defensive intensity somehow went up another level, especially when it came to guarding Steph. Amen Thompson and Dillon Brooks were practically stapled to him, face-guarding with such commitment that they weren't even watching the rest of the court. It didn't matter where the ball was. Their only mission was to stay glued to Curry, deny him any daylight and make him work for every inch of space. And it worked, spectacularly. The pressure was so suffocating that Steph, one of the greatest shooters the game has ever seen, launched an off-balance shot that missed everything, an air ball. When's the last time you've seen that? It was a surreal moment, a visual representation of just how out of rhythm he was and how flawlessly the Rockets' game plan was being executed.
Would be the most incredible year. OKC's good, but they were good last year too. Steph with the air ball.
And even on the rare occasion when Steph did manage to shake free, fighting through double teams, navigating screens, and finally creating just enough separation for an open look, it still didn't fall. The shot looked good in the air, like one of those classic Curry rainbows, but it rimmed out. That's when you knew. It just wasn't his night. No matter how much space he carved out or how clean the look was, the ball refused to go in. You could see the frustration building on his face, the kind that only happens when your usual magic completely disappears. It wasn't for lack of effort. He kept moving, kept trying, but the shot simply wouldn't drop. Whether it was the relentless pressure from the Rockets' defense, the physical fatigue of being chased every possession, or just an off night, everything combined to shut him down in a way we almost never see. For Steph, it was one of those games where the basketball gods just weren't on his side.
He's at his best in the open floor before the defense is set. Steph all the way to the rim. Looney tipping it in. And Looney another offensive rebound. Steph on a sidestep 3. Crowd aching for that to go down because Amen Thompson and the Rocket defense has just bottled up Steph.
Well, look at what Steph has had to deal with all night. Game after game, to have to deal with this, it stinks. It has to stink.